Hi, very welcome to my channel. I'm Elin, or Lunacha, or Luna for short. Call me either of those. Anyway, in today's video, I thought I would talk about all the books that I read in April. First things first, I think we should start with the hard facts. I read 5 books in April, and 3 of them were like physical paper books, 1 was digital, and 1 was audiobook. According to Storygraph, my most read genre was LGBTQAIP+, which was 3 books, and I also read 3 books that were fantasy, so that was kind of head-to-head. I also read 1 science fiction, 1 mystery, 1 memoir, and 1 historical. My first read in April was Pageboy, a memoir written by Elliot Page, and this was my audiobook of the month. I listened to this as an audiobook because that was what I was able to get the hold on from the library. I don't really buy books. I try to borrow from the library, and this was available in Libby, or I was on hold, I think. I don't remember, but I was able to get it as an audiobook, but I wasn't able to get it as a physical copy. So I chose to do the audiobook, and I have a reading blog for this, so I will link that in the description box so you can go have a look at it. I probably go into more detail in that video. But I thought it was a really interesting read. I don't really read a lot of memoirs, and especially not memoirs from celebrities. Though I don't really have a strong connection to Elliot Page as an actor. I know that he is an actor, and I have seen at least one of the films he's been in. But other than that, I don't really know a lot about like the whole actor thing. What was interesting to me was his experience as a trans man and transitioning and all those kind of things. And you know that he is like a white person, he is quite well off. So in many ways, he's very, very privileged. And of course, that makes it probably easier for him than from a lot of other people who doesn't have a lot of money, who might be personal color or other things, like other minority things that make or marginalized groups. So that often makes it even harder for them. So in many ways, he's very privileged, and I know that he knows this, and I think if I remember correctly, he also gets touches on that in the book. But at the same time, even though you're privileged and have all these advantages, that doesn't necessarily mean that your life is all easy and just like a dance of roses, as we say, dance on roses, as we say in Norwegian. It can still be hard at times, and he has had his struggles, but definitely he's estranged from his father. His father hasn't really been a nice person to him, that's for sure. But I really enjoyed this book, and I'm very glad that I actually did read it. And yeah, I don't rate books, so I'm not giving it any stars or anything, but that was definitely my first read of the month. My next read for April was Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher, and this was my first read for the Hugo Awards. If you are following me, you know that I'm currently reading books for the Hugo Awards, and I'm going to leave a link down to the playlist for my Hugo reading. I have a series of videos for that, so I'll leave a link to that playlist in the description box. And this book, Thornhedge, was the second book by T. Kingfisher that I've read. So I haven't read a lot of books by the author, but so far this is my absolute favorite. This is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, and you have a tower, and there's a princess trapped in that tower, and she is sleeping. But the twist here is that this is not the story about the Sleeping Beauty herself. This is about Toadling. And Toadling was born as a human, and then when she was a newborn, she was stolen by the fairies, and she was taken to fairyland and grew up there and had a fairly happy life. She enjoyed it, and then when she became an adult, there was a fairy who asked her a favor to go back to the human world and look after this princess. And I think the idea was that she was like a changeling. So the princess was actually a fairy from the beginning. So Toadling's mission is to kind of do something about the trouble that this fairy is making in the human world. So that's why she's in the human world. But that's all I'm going to say, because it's a very, very short book. It's just a novella. So I'm just going to say that I really enjoyed it, and I do have a reading blog for it. So I will link to that down in the description box, and you can see more about my thoughts there. After having read Thornhedge, I actually, of course, continued reading for the Hugos, and the next book that I read was The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. And boy, was this a ride to be on, if you can say that about a book, because this was such a fun read. So Amina Al-Sirafi is a retired pirate, so to speak. And that's one of the things I really like about this book, that you have this, I don't know how old she is, but she's probably like 40 plus. And you have like this main character that isn't like in her 20s or teens or anything. She's like a grown-up woman. She has a daughter, and she used to be a pirate on the Indian Sea, and she had all these adventures, and then she is, what can we say, threatened into go on a new adventure, and this wasn't planned at all. She was planning on having a quiet life, but that is not going to happen. So she is thrown into this new adventure on the sea, and it doesn't go as she originally planned, and things doesn't they're not as easily done as she thought they would be. So this is a book like full of humor, and I just really enjoyed this read. And of course, I have a reading vlog for this as well, so you will find that one in the description box as well. This, I must say, I really enjoyed. So I am hoping there will be a second book this year. Fingers crossed. This is definitely a series that I'm going to continue. I'm normally not great at continuing series, but this series I really want to continue. My next read for the Hugos and my next read in April was Mammoths at the Gate, which is another one of the novella finalists for the Hugo Awards. I also have a reading blog for this, as for all the Hugo books. And this was written by Nhi Vu. I think it's pronounced Nhi Vu, but I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so this is a very thin book, and it's also number 4 in a series. I have not read the other books in this series, so I don't really know if that is a big deal or not if you haven't read the first books in the series when you read this, but I haven't. So I just started reading this, and there is this cleric. I'm very bad with character names in general, because it's there's a lot of names, so I don't really remember all the names. But anyway, there's this cleric, and they return home to where they come. I think they've been like away for years, and when they arrive home, they find out that another cleric has passed away, and they're really really sad about that. So it's like a mixed feeling. Like there's all this joy for arriving home, and then there's all this sorrow for the cleric who passed away. And it seems like all the characters in these books are animals, either like birds. I think the main characters in this book is birds. I might be mistaken, but if they're not birds, they're like bird-like. And there are some people who are claiming to be relatives or like a very close family to the cleric that passed away. So they are like outside the city or town or this place where they live, and they brought some mammoths. And I must say, as you could see, it's a very, very thin book. So there's not a lot going on in this book. There's not a lot of action, but it's very, very atmospheric. And because of that, I quite enjoyed it. So I can't really say a lot about it because because I don't really know that much about it. And it's like a super quick read because it's so thin. And I think either at some point I have to like sit down and read all the books in this series and start at the beginning and see if that makes any difference. I don't know. If you have read this book or the series, let me know what you thought, and also please let me know if it makes any difference to have read the other books in the series first, because I am blank when it comes to those things for these books. Normally I wouldn't start reading a book in the middle of a series because who knows what that will bring. Anyway, I am rambling, and off to the next book. My next read for the Hugo Awards, as well as my last read of April, was this short novella, The Mimicking of Known Successes, written by Malka Older. And this is a cozy science fiction murder mystery. And it's also a sapphic romance. So this has a lot, even though it's a short novella. And I must say that I really like this book, and it's one that I'm planning on continuing reading because I just felt that this pretty much set, was just like the start of something. So in this book, Earth has collapsed. Our Earth has collapsed, and humankind has settled on Jupiter. And you have this investigator who follows a man who's gone missing and follow his traces to Valdegeld, where you find her old university as well as her old girlfriend Platy. So Mossa, which is the investigator, knows that Platy is a scholar and that she has dedicated her research to Earth's pre-collapsed ecosystems and the possible return to Earth. So that's what they strive to do. They want to they have all these animals that they want to kind of breed and at some point maybe try and make everything work so that they can bring everything back to Earth. So that's kind of the premise, and then Mossa requests Platy's assistance because it's her expertise, and of course there's a little bit of a tension between them. It's like a little bit of uncertainty because they're not together anymore. So what will happen with them as like a couple? Because it's for you as a reader, it's very clear that that Platy has not forgotten Mossa, even though it was Platy who broke up with Mossa. And then, of course, there's a guy who is murdered, and then they have to like scale up the investigation. And even though it's like murder mystery, it's still cozy. It's not very bloody or anything, and I just really enjoyed this. And I found there to be like surprisingly much character building, even though it was so short. So I'm kind of sitting here like thinking, So this is so short, but I still think there was a lot of stuff in this story at the same time. So I'm very much looking forward to the next book in the series. I'm not quite sure when it will come out, but when it does, I will definitely read it. And I'm looking forward to it because it's so good. That, my friends, were all the books that I read in April. Have you gotten this far into the video? Please leave a little tullip in the comment section. Also remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and that's it. I will see you in my next video, and until then, I wish you all the best. Have a great day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!